So, there's this huge new tax reform sweeping across India called GST 2.0. But this isn't just another story about taxes. It's about a fascinating and pretty powerful connection. How saving a little bit on your weekly shopping could actually help supercharge the entire national economy. Let's dive in.
Yeah, the government's actually calling this a GST Savings Festival. As Prime Minister Modi puts it, the idea is really simple. Lower GST rates mean more savings for every household. The whole point is to put money directly back into the pockets of families just like yours.
And that really brings us to the big question, right? How on earth does a small discount on your groceries connect to building massive new roads, funding schools, and fueling one of the world's fastest-growing economies? The answer, it turns out, is surprisingly cool.
Okay, so first things first. Let's break down what this reform actually means for you, the consumer, when you're at the checkout counter. All right, so what exactly is GST 2.0? The first GST was all about unifying India's super complex tax system. This next phase, this 2.0, is all about making things cheaper. At its core, it's a massive price cut on over 375 common everyday items. And the Finance Ministry is being super clear about this. They expect companies to pass these savings along, and you can bet they'll be watching to make sure it happens. And we're not talking about luxury goods here. We're talking about the stuff you buy every single week. Food items, household products, and all those other daily necessities. We're already seeing businesses start to cut prices or give you more for the same price, which is a great sign that the cost of these goods is heading down. But here's the thing, these discounts, they're really just the tip of the iceberg. To get the real story, to see the true scale of what's happening, we need to zoom way, way out and look at the absolute powerhouses that make up the Indian economy.
This is maybe the most important thing to grasp. India isn't just one single economy. No way. It's more like a collection of massive, individual economies all stitched together. Each state is its own economic force, and that's where GST 2.0 gets really interesting.
Get a load of this number. $400 billion. That's not the whole country's output. That is the annual economic output of just one Indian state, Maharashtra.
Okay, so what does $400 billion even mean? Well, to put that into perspective, if Maharashtra were its own country, its economy would be the 40th largest in the entire world, about the same size as South Africa's. And remember, that's just one state.
And it's not just Maharashtra. This pattern plays out all across the country. You look at Uttar Pradesh, its population is as big as Brazil's, or Tamil Nadu, where the average income is on par with Vietnam. Then you have states like Gujarat and Karnataka, each one with an economy about the size of Portugal's. It's pretty wild when you think about it.
So when you put it all together, it's pretty staggering. Just those top 5 states, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Uttar Pradesh, they're the ones driving more than half of India's entire economic output. They really are the engines of the nation. Okay, so if these states are the economic engines, then GST is the fuel that makes them run. Now let's get into the really cool part, this kind of paradoxical idea of how making things cheaper can actually bring in more money for the government.
There's a quote from the source material that just nails it. It says GST isn't just a tax, it is the lifeblood of state finances. And that's absolutely true. States depend on this money for everything from paying public sector salaries to building brand new infrastructure projects.
This is where we see something called the flywheel effect kick in. It's a really simple but powerful cycle. Check it out. Step 1, GST 2.0 makes stuff cheaper. Step 2, because things cost less, what do people do? They buy more. So consumer demand goes up. Step 3, now even though the tax on each item is lower, the sheer volume of sales means the government collects more GST in total. And that leads right to Step 4, a huge boost in revenue for the states.
And listen, this isn't just some abstract theory. We're talking real numbers here. A report from Crystal is projecting that for India's 18 biggest states, the ones that make up 90% of the entire economy, their revenue growth is set to jump from around 6.6% right now to somewhere between 7 and 9%. That is a massive leap, and it's all thanks to this flywheel.
So, when you step back and look at the whole picture, what you see is this powerful triple benefit, all coming from this one single policy reform. It's designed to be a classic win-win-win situation. For families, you get more savings in your pocket. For businesses, it's all about smoother compliance and making trade easier. And for the states, they get more stable, higher revenues. Of course, the whole thing hinges on that first step. Businesses have to pass on those savings to get the ball rolling. And at the end of the day, this is why it all matters so much. That extra state revenue. It's not just a number on a page. That's the money that gets plowed right back into our communities. We're talking more funding for welfare programs, for building better roads and bridges, for improving the public services that we all rely on.
So, the big idea here is that by making these powerhouse states financially stronger, GST 2.0 is basically laying a more solid foundation for the entire country's future growth. Which leaves us with one final, massive question. With its economic engines all tuned up and supercharged, what's next for India?